Hello guys and welcome back to the Silence Majority YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be debunking a few leftist / communist TikToks that I've seen and that have been submitted to me in the Discord. By the way, if you would like to join the Discord to participate in the future YouTube videos and have votes on what they are about, then you can. The link is in the description along with my Instagram and Twitter bio. Let's get straight into it.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. I have a dream today.
Tear down this wall.
So I'm going to be reacting to 5 videos from 4 different content creators today. And we're going to start it off with somebody called Dreyak. Now, Dreyak is talking about women in sports, and she did this video as part of No Nuance November, which is pretty hilarious as there is a lot of nuanced videos and opinions to be made from this. Let's go.
No Nuance November, but it's women in sports. There's no sound logic as to why women shouldn't be able to play in the MLB. It's a non-contact sport.
They can play in the MLB. There is a law written in, I think, 1952 or maybe 1954 that said that they couldn't. However, 40 years later that was taken away. So there is nothing stopping a woman from going into the MLB. Now, there is sound logic as to why there are no women in the MLB, and that's because they're not as good. And on top of that, girls at a very young age are encouraged to go into softball instead of baseball. Now, if you try to encourage them to go into baseball instead, then you may see a few girls getting into the MLB, but that will be lots and lots of years from now. So there's nothing stopping them. As for the sound logic as to why there is none, they're not as good.
One of the largest wage gaps that we have to this day in this country is sports. The average WNBA player makes $79,000, while their counterparts in the NBA make $7 million.
Yes, those stats are correct. The average WNBA player gets paid $79,000, whereas the average NBA player gets paid $7 million. And I'm going to explain why. So let's imagine that we've got 2 random groups of people here. Let's ignore the genders for a moment, which is what you want to do. I've seen your other videos where you wanted to abolish gender. Let's say we've got Group A, which gets paid $79,000, and Group B, which gets paid $7 million. So Group A's revenue, which is the WNBA, is $60 million a year. Group B's revenue, which is the NBA, is $7.4 billion, with a B. That is a big difference. That would mean that the WNBA, with a revenue of $60 million a year, paying their players $79,000 a year, are paying them 0.13% of the revenue each. That's 0.13% each. Now the NBA, with the revenue of $7.4 billion, pay their players $7 million. That would mean that NBA players get paid 0.09% of the revenue. So relative to the revenue, men get paid less than women in basketball. However, if you did want true equality and you wanted to pay the WNBA and the NBA fairly based on their revenues, then you would either have to lower the WNBA's wages from $79,000 a year down to $54,000 a year, or you'd have to increase the NBA's wages from $7 million a year up to $9.62 million a year. That is quite a big increase, but that is equality. Now let's say for some absolutely ridiculous reason we decided to pay WNBA players more based on their genitalia compared to their revenue, which is sexism, and you decided to pay them the same as NBA players. That would cost the WNBA $1.26 billion a year. To pay every single WNBA player the same as an NBA player, it would cost $1.26 billion a year. That would mean that there is a net loss in the WNBA of $1.2 billion. Where's that coming from? It's not coming from you, because I can almost guarantee that all you do is moan about these problems instead of doing anything about it, and the things I would encourage you to do about it are fundraise for your local women's basketball teams, or buy season tickets to WNBA games, buy jerseys for WNBA teams. Money doesn't come from nowhere, money comes from revenue streams. If you don't have the revenue stream, you're not going to get paid more, and to demand to get paid more based on your genitalia is sexism. Next point.
Men that use the argument, well, there's softball or there's the WNBA, don't understand this wage gap and don't understand that in the off season, most of these major league players have to work a coaching job to support.
Yes, I can understand that. I've understood your argument completely. However, it's irrelevant. Using anecdotal evidence like that, trying to bring emotion into a logical argument does not work with anybody, especially the board members and the executives which will make these decisions which you want to be put in place. They're going to have to work an off-season job, because they're simply not bringing enough money in. Is the WNBA meant to be a charity now? No. Next point.
Support themselves. Men masculinizing women in sports makes women not want to play sports.
Yes, this is probably the only one in the video that I agree with you on. However, if you go to the grassroots level, which is where this stigma starts, you'll see it's with girls a lot more than the men. For instance, if a girl wants to play in the school's soccer team, or football team as I should say, but I say soccer for the Americans on here, the boys don't have a problem with it. Again, I'm using anecdotal evidence because you are as well. You've not given any empirical data to back up this point. However, the girls are the ones that alienate sports people. They're the ones that bully them. They're the ones that say, oh, well, you're muscular and all this different sort of stuff. So that's mostly a you problem than a boy problem. Next point.
Major rappers and celebrities who worship the NBA but don't keep that same energy for the WNBA only push the notion that women's sports are worse and are one of the major problems with sports.
That isn't a notion, that is the reality. Women's sports are worse compared to men's sports. Most sports, in fact. I think the only sport in the world where a woman is leading is the ultra distance walking events, which is like 2,000 miles. So to have to go to a sport that niche to finally win, there's a pattern there. Now, let's look at tennis. Serena Williams, probably the best female tennis player in history. She said that she would be beaten by the top 400 men. You go to Australia, where an under-16 state team beat the women's national team at soccer, at football. You go to the US, where that happened again. I think it was Dallas boys team. They beat the women's senior team. Mansfield Town boys, under-16s, beat the women's senior under-21s. All of these pieces of data prove that women's sports are not to the level of men's sports. Now, this doesn't mean that fans shouldn't go and enjoy it. Fans should go and enjoy it, which is why I'm trying to encourage people to go there through promotion on my Instagram of women's sports. However, what you can't do is demand higher pay without getting more revenue in. Money doesn't come from nowhere. You have to earn it. And it's not technically the woman's fault. Now, if you go to a biological basis, women are weaker than men, women have less hand-eye coordination than men, and all these sorts of things add up to why women's sports are not at the level as men's sports. Next point.
Women don't like watching the NFL because there's absolutely no female representation.
Again, there's no law in the NFL that states that women can't play.
Along the same lines, it's 2020 and men still aren't making room for women in sports.
What do you want them to do? Do you want them to be worse at what they do? Do you want them to slack off of training and think, oh no, I'll let a woman take my place? I don't know why you've got this predisposition that sports is easy. I don't know why you think that men get it easy. They don't. LeBron James trained day in, day out for years and years and years to get where he is. Kobe Bryant, the Mamba mentality. He trained so hard to get where he got to. They're not just going to slack off to make room for women. Women have to fight for their place the same way that men have to fight for their place. And as for the NFL point that you made, which was women don't like watching the NFL because there's absolutely no female representation, that's not the men's fault. There's no law stating that women can't join the NFL. Carly Lloyd, with I think it was a team in Philadelphia, she trained with them quite often, and a Hall of Fame member recommended her to different teams for a tryout. She's a woman, and if she gets into the NFL, then good on her. There'll finally be female representation, but if we focus on that female representation, then you failed at identity politics, because genitalia shouldn't matter, skill should matter. Okay, let's go to the next video.
I will say again, there is no such thing as an ethical billionaire. Billionaires only exist because they exploit and underpay their workers.
No, they don't. And I don't want to do this thing where the sort of meme that communists have made where you can't criticise the society if you live in it. But the only reason billionaires exist is not that. The reason that billionaires exist is because they offer a service or a product to millions if not billions of people who all find value in it, enough to warrant giving that billionaire the money for that service or product. For example,
hey guys, so I ordered some stuff on Amazon yesterday.
Amazon Prime. The boxes that you have there have the tape on for Amazon Prime. So you have found it warrantable to pay Jeff Bezos and his company £7.99 a month in return for next day delivery, in return for Prime TV, in return for Prime Sports, all of these sorts of things. You've made that decision. No one's forced you into that. That is the reason that billionaires exist, because they offer a product and a service that people find value in enough to warrant giving them their money. Next point.
Jeff Bezos has £131 billion.
No, he doesn't. Jeff Bezos' companies and assets are worth that. However, if we try to liquidate them and get that cash out of it so that he could touch it, feel it and see it, he would not have that much money. Because currently, Amazon shares, the demand is here, the supply is here, which is why the price is rising. If Jeff Bezos flooded the market with all of his shares, the supply would go up here, and then the demand would look at Jeff Bezos, think, wow, why is he selling all of his shares? Maybe some bad news is coming. Then the demand will go down. And if the demand's down here and the supply is up here, the price goes down. Simple economics. Please learn it before making a video like that. Next point.
Yeah, the average pay for Amazon warehouse workers is £10 an hour.
Yes, because the average value of the labour of an Amazon worker in a warehouse is £10 an hour. Now, if they don't think that that valuation is fair, no one is stopping them from going to another warehouse down the road and going to hundreds of them and asking for more than £10 an hour. However, I can assure you that almost all of them will say, no, you're not worth that to me. Maybe a few of them will say, okay, £10.50, or a few of them will say £9.50, but that is the market value of their labour. Who are you to say that it's worth more than that? If you want, you can set up something similar to Amazon, pay your warehouse workers £15 an hour or £20 an hour and see how far you get, because I guarantee you it will not be far. Next point.
And at Amazon, a lot of the machines have monitors to record the productivity of employees.
Yeah, you would want to monitor the productivity of your employees. And using a machine is just a more efficient way of using a human, which is why these basic warehouse jobs in 10 years time will be replaced by machines. If you keep raising the minimum wage, all you're doing is incentivizing technology to progress at a rapid pace so that business owners such as Jeff Bezos can stop paying people minimum wage and instead invest in technology which is much cheaper. Next point.
All of this aside, I just feel like a lot of people don't understand how much money £1 billion is. 1 million seconds is 11.5 days, whereas 1 billion seconds is 31.5 years. Another example, if I was a billionaire and I spent £10,000 a day, it would take me 274 years to spend all of my money. It's an unspendable amount of money.
No, it's not. When you consider that Amazon in the final quarter of 2019 spent, I think, about 1.4 billion on developing same-day delivery, it's really not an unspendable amount of money. I don't know why you've got this misconception that billionaires spend very little of their money. They don't. Amazon's outgoings, I think, per week is something like 200 million. And that goes to employees, that goes to FedEx drivers, that goes to pilots. You know, it's all going through the economy. Jeff Bezos isn't sat there with millions and billions of thinking, yep, I've got all this money, I'm just going to sit here with it. He's not doing that. He doesn't even have access to that money. If he tried to, as I've explained earlier, his share value would shoot down. He's not sitting with that wealth. It's not an unspendable amount of money. It's easily spent, especially when you're running a business at that size. Next point.
And when there are people that are living on the street and struggling to find money for food and clothes, hoarding that much wealth in my eyes is evil.
He's not hoarding that much wealth. As already explained, he can't access that wealth unless he slips it out very slowly, which he has been doing. I think he sold quite a lot of shares in 2019 and 20. Now he's stepped down as CEO, so he might be selling more. But again, he's not hoarding that wealth. And also, if we did what you wanted him to do and he gave out his wealth to everybody, money wouldn't be worth what it is. Again, it's supply and demand. Inflation would shoot up. If Jeff Bezos, with $10 billion, decided to give 1 million people, what's that, $10,000 each, the value of money would drop. And I'm sorry to say, but that is the end of this video. The other 3 videos will be in a part 2, which I'll release once this video gets to 150 likes. So if you would like to see more of this, then make sure to like the video, make sure to subscribe and comment with any future video suggestions that you have. If you would like to stay in touch with me, then my Twitter and my Instagram are linked in the bio, as well as the Discord if you would like to participate in future votes for video ideas. All of the support that I've got so far on this channel has been greatly appreciated. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers, and that would honestly be mind-blowing. I have a lot of milestones on this channel that I would like to reach, and this is only the first one. So once again, thank you for your support. Make sure to like, subscribe and comment, and I will see you in the next video.